The drive-in. Is there anything more nostalgic than sitting out under an open sky full of stars, watching the newest movie with your friends and family, on a blanket in the grass or in the seat of your car, the bed of your truck? But to most people, this concept is unfamiliar. They've never been to a drive-in. Well, for me and my friends, the drive-in was the place to go on hot summer nights. So here I've provided a list of movies that I've seen at the drive-in. This is all that I can remember, but there is quite possibly even more. And I just want to talk about the magic of the drive-in theater and how much fun my friends and I had going there all the time throughout the summer. So I wanted to build a drive-in in Tiny Glade, inspired by the one that my friends and I would have frequented as kids. These movies are in no particular order, although I did look at some lists of movies that came out between 2002 and now to try to remember just how many I saw, but I went to the drive-in a lot as a kid, especially as a teenager once I was able to drive. So I know I talked about it in a previous video, but I drove a 2001 black Ford Ranger when I was in high school. It was like the old farm truck. We used it for throwing hay. And once I got my driver's license, it was passed down to me as my personal vehicle. And once I could drive, my friends and I would load up the bed of the truck with blankets, pillows, anything comfy. My sister had some beanbag chairs we'd throw back there sometimes. And then once we got to the drive-in, we would just line the bed of my truck up like it was a bed and make it so comfy and cozy. A couple of times we'd fall asleep back there while watching the movie because it was just so comfy. And you can see here, I'm making the rows for the cars to park. And originally I put them on the little driving paths, but then I realized no, the hills are slightly in front of the driving paths so that the cars can be pointed upwards a little bit. So there are a few rules of thumb at the drive-in. Big cars, park in the back. You're just a dick if you park your big old Ford Expedition in the front row. The screen is big, but a lot of people are sitting in the grass, so you don't want to block anyone's view. Pickup trucks are best to be rear-facing so that you can sit in the bed of the truck and watch the movie. And there's a couple of ways to enjoy the movie, sound-wise anyway. So there are speakers placed all throughout the rows that you can pull up to your car, and they have little dials to adjust the volume. And the drive-in that we went to had two screens. So there was one in the front and one in the back. In this build, I only build one in the front. And you could also tune in on the radio and they would have it playing. So sometimes we go to the drive-in and it would start raining. Well, if that's the case, then you just throw everything back in the vehicle and hop in the car and turn the battery on and listen to the movie on the radio. You get better sound quality that way for sure, but that's not what the drive-in's all about. It's not an IMAX. It's not trying to be an IMAX. It's about being outside with your friends and watching a movie. So here's our movie screen. So the last movie I saw at the drive-in was the newest A Quiet Place. And my husband had never been to the drive-in before. There's no drive-ins where he grew up and where we live now. So we went to my childhood drive-in, which is about an hour away from where we live now. And I was pregnant with our son then, and was A Quiet Place day one. we're not super into those movies or anything, but it's not about being into the movie. It's about the whole drive-in experience. And I just wanted him to feel what I felt as a kid going to the drive-in. So we get there and it's kind of raining, so it's just like lightly sprinkling. So we decide to stay in the car and listen to the movie on the radio. But I forgot the rule of thumb. When you're listening to it on the radio, the car cannot stay on with just battery power for the whole length of a movie. So the battery to the car died. But what an appropriate movie to have no sound for, because it was a quiet place. There's like hardly any talking at all. It's almost all visual. So luckily these things happen. The owners of the drive-in have like battery chargers and stuff that you can ask for, but very kind ladies in the truck next to us helped us start the car when it was time to leave. They jumped it for us and we were able to go. But my dumbass, I should have known this, but it had been years since I had been to the drive-in and I just wasn't quick enough on the draw to start the car up. But I just thought it was funny that of all the movies to have no sound for, it was A Quiet Place. That was okay. So here I'm making the concession stand. So the concession stand is always bumping right before the movie starts. Here I made it like an outdoor concession stand where you can pick your stuff up at the window and order at the window. But the one by my childhood home was indoors and it was crazy busy. When you would go in, you would be elbow to elbow with all the families around you for like a half hour, and then trying to get out with like a tray full of snacks was quite the task. But we managed every time, and usually it was a good time standing in there with all those people. Everyone's excited for the movie they're seeing, so... And then I made like a little condiment bar over here because you get a hot dog or a burger or something from the concession stand, they're not going to dress it up for you, so you take it over to where the ketchup and mustard is and fix it up how you like it yourself. That's what I got over here. Sometimes we would bring our own snacks, even though that is discouraged. And I remember when we saw the Transformers Age of Extinction, me and my friends brought all the stuff to make tacos. And we had a Ziploc baggie full of meat and a bag of tortillas and some lettuce and tomatoes and everything we would need, some cheese. And we had taco night at the drive-in. So here I was figuring out how to make cars. I had seen another video where someone made a highly detailed car in Tiny Glade, and I thought that's super cool, but I'm also not trying to get that far into it. This is supposed to give the idea of cars. It's not supposed to be an exact car. So this one is kind of like a little pickup truck, and it's got the windshield there, and I tried to figure out how to like put a door on it, but it just was not working out, so I ended up just leaving it like that. It gives the feeling of a car more than anything. And you can see I put the lanterns all around the wall. That is also just supposed to give the feeling of a movie being projected onto the screen. I remember when the drive-in switched to digital. That was cool, instead of just being projected. I think the first movie that I saw at the drive-in was Spy Kids 3D, but I'm not totally sure. That's just one of the earliest memories I have. I remember me and my sister were big horse girls, especially my sister. And we saw Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron like 4 times at the drive-in. We begged our parents to go over and over and over again, and when we were little kids, we would always go in our pajamas because we would pretty much always fall asleep before the movie was over. I remember one time, my sister and I didn't always live with each other in high school because our parents were divorced, and so for most of the time I lived with our dad and she lived with our mom, and so we didn't even coordinate when we were going to be going to the drive-in. And one time, we saw the movie. I can't remember for sure which movie it was, but the movie was over and my friends and I are leaving, and I see my sister drove a big Expedition, and I see one exactly like hers dead in the back row as I'm driving around leaving. And I'm like, that looks like my sister's car. And I go up to it, and sure enough, it's my sister, and her car battery went dead. And so luckily I was there to give her a jump and get her going again. So one of the happiest memories I have at the drive-in was in summer of 2016. I was pregnant with my daughter, the first time I had ever been pregnant, and we were seeing Finding Dory, and while the trailers were going, I felt her kick for the first time in my tummy. So whenever I see Finding Dory, I'm always brought back to the first time I ever had any sort of interaction with my daughter. I felt her kick in my tummy. So the next vehicle I'm making is supposed to be my truck. I was like, I can't make a Tiny Glade drive-in without making Bessie. That's what we called my pickup truck, was Bessie. So you can see I'm gonna make it rear facing, just like we used to do. And then I wish I could put pillows and everything in the back just to show how comfy it was. And I remember one time when I was a younger kid and my parents were still together at the time, and we're all getting ready to go to the drive-in, and me and my dad and my sister are waiting outside for my mom to finish getting ready. And my mom is super ditzy, and when she walked outside, she had no pants on. Luckily, we lived out in the sticks, so it's not like there was a bunch of people around, but it was like she didn't even notice. And we're like, you ready? And she's like, yeah, let's go. You gonna put some pants on? And she looked out and she just screamed and ran inside. Because at the time she had been doing something like directing a play or something, and had been wearing a lot of skirts and dresses all week. So for some reason it just didn't even register to her that she was not even wearing pants. And that will always be a funny drive-in memory. So another thing about the drive-in is it's a lot of waiting. The movie doesn't start until sundown, and so you gotta get there early, otherwise you are going to be waiting out on the highway for an hour trying to get in. But it'll be worth it once you get in. And then once you're in, you gotta wait at the concession stand, and that'll be worth it too, because they'll have the best breadsticks you've ever had in your life. And then after that, it's waiting for the movie to start, which won't happen until it is dark outside, because you can't watch a movie if the sun's up. And if you go around Memorial Day or the 4th of July, then the one we went to had a big lake across the street, and in the middle of the night you'd see fireworks. And that was always a really good time to go. A very busy time to go to the drive-in for sure was around those holidays. Especially you'd get people from out of state or out of town wanting to have the drive-in experience. And being a local, you're so annoyed at those people, but I guess it's not fair. They should get to enjoy your drive-in too. So I wanted to have like the speakers set up, but I wasn't totally sure how to do that. So I ended up just putting lanterns down to like give the vibe of the speaker stands everywhere. If you've never been to a drive-in, I highly suggest you find one near you and make the trip out there, because it is a truly one-of-a-kind experience. And here, this is like the ticket booth that I made, so I wanted to make one car showing up. And actually, what happens here with the windows, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I should have done that for all of them. But honestly, was just kind of too lazy to go back and re-edit them all so that they had that. But for future car builds, this is the move. 2 corner windows made with 3 windows each. So this is about the last thing I did, was make the car pulling up, paying to get in. And after that, I think it's time to give the full drive-in movie theater experience to you. Enjoy. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me about a time you've been to the drive-in or your favorite movie experience. Leave a like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know what you're having for dinner, because I always need ideas. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.